Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wind, Reel, and Print. My name is Ryan.
My name is Kevin.
And today we are going back in time to our childhoods. Well, actually, Kevin, did you watch this when you were a kid?
Yeah, so it's weird. I just had like a fond memory of this movie for whatever reason. Like
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah.
The movie, folks. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So you do have a fond memory of it. Or did.
I did, yeah. Like, I don't know. I just had thought it was on the, like, Mary Poppins Sound of Music level of, like, musicals and children epics. And I don't know. I remembered certain scenes and certain things about the film. So I just, like, thought it was a weird, interesting choice.
Yeah.
And now I have like a horrid disdain for this film. Like I didn't understand it at all. But yeah.
I'm in the same boat. Like I remember it a certain way.
Sure.
I watched it a lot growing up. I remember the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Jim Carrey singing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, and so that's also a reference for me.
Nice.
For all of us Ace heads out there.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. I don't know if it holds up anymore, especially in some of the things.
Sure.
But Ace Ventura is funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, you were reading it before, but it like the description of its genre was an American a British and American children's epic, musical fantasy, comedy adventure film. And that I think really explains how insanely large it is. What are we? It's like the longest kids movie ever. 145 minutes, so 225, and 2 hours 25. You could see how that could have been.
It said the longest kids movie ever.
Huh?
You said the
longest?
No.
It feels like the longest kids movie ever.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have not seen one that feels that long, but I don't have a blanket statement.
It feels like 4 hours. I'll be honest.
It's insane, and honestly, it needed more time because there were some things that needed more. Like which is crazy. In reality, they needed to cut an entire storyline out of it.
It needed to be pared down a lot.
Yeah, so we've got a what was supposed to be another Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke flick. Obviously, Mary Poppins coming before this and being a hit and being such an important kind of cornerstone to like what was making like 60s musicals, especially aimed at kids. This is obviously not a Disney film.
Yeah, United Artists.
Yeah, which is another kind of interesting angle of like what Disney was and kind of like what the other companies around them were doing at the time.
Sure.
Because we look at that a lot of times. I think even nowadays, Disney is still, or I don't know how necessarily big they were. They were probably super big back then too. But even now, I mean it's just like, insane. It's Disney is like the top, and then you have all of these other companies that are kind of vying to work around their material. Yeah, and like Disney kind of does set the standard of at least what is commercial.
Yeah, they definitely. I mean, even I'm trying to like tie this in together. Yeah, but they've definitely before I would say the Disney Renaissance, like post Walt Disney's death up until the 90s, they were making a lot of like these sorts of things. I feel like not Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, but like these like live action kids movies.
Yes.
That
there's so many weird random ones that you hear about and you're like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah, like Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
And like,
oh, we're even talking about that.
Yeah, these OG sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Are you talking about like the OG Freaky Friday? Or are you talking about, I thought you were talking about Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis.
I mean, that too.
Yeah, like, it's in the same vein of like,
yeah, that kind of stuff.
Kind of like Disney Channel became really big at a certain point, and that was obviously very live action.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so I feel like they had a certain brand that like other studios could copy, right? Like the kids movie sort of thing that most of the time end up being musicals. Sports movies are also very big in the Disney machine,
yes,
like for kids and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like that's what you see here is like another studio trying to copy that formula, and maybe not so great results, right? Because this just felt like a flat, like Mary Poppins.
I mean, you're talking about flat even in like a story sense. And things. It was flat in color too. I mean, talk about just like, it was flat. I think that's a good way to put it. Like there is just like something that you lose in it, like, because you can look at the poster and it makes it look like it's a wild ride, and for a little bit it's a wild ride.
For like 5 minutes.
And it's multiple movies put into one movie, and then you end up going back to the original movie at the end, and it doesn't feel we're moved beyond that. And are we supposed to believe the characters are the same as they were? Like now we basically are walked to another theater to watch another movie, which just
doesn't infuriating.
It is, because you want the conclusion of the other one. And so basically, for those of you that don't know, there's a fantasy 45-minute segment, or maybe it's even longer than that.
In the second half.
Basically the midpoint.
This other world.
They go to another fantasy world that starts as a story, and it definitely is made clear you're going into a fantasy world, because it does that classic, and maybe, I don't know how classic it was back then, but certainly it is now, that kind of weird wavy effect. And now we're in the fantasy world where the boat can fly and go on and become a boat and all of these things.
The car can fly.
What did I say?
Boat. You said a boat.
A boat can fly. A car can boat and fly.
Exactly.
Yes. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. That would be interesting as a boat movie. Maybe Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is a boat originally.
Sure.
And then it's a car most of the time.
A steamboat.
Yeah.
It's amphibious.
But yeah, it's interesting. As soon as it gets to the fantasy part, that's the part I enjoyed the most. Because it felt like it was kind of like the promise of the premise a bit. It's like I'm fine to watch a movie where it's like about a family, like an inventor getting a rundown car that the kids always wanted and making it into something and making it really nice. And that's basically the entire plot
of the first half. And then you kind of go back to it. And it's like, that's a 90-minute movie at most. That feels like so short. That might even be a short film. There doesn't feel like there's much going on there, but then they build off that and do the fantasy sequence, which... That's why it feels like two different movies,
exactly,
though, right?
Yeah.
It's because like you kind of go through the whole motions of that first one, which almost feel like Bicycle Thieves-y, has that kind of like realism vibe to it. And then it goes into after the intermission, it goes into this like crazy fantasy stuff, and it's like, where are we? Like, how did we even get here? Like, I understand the message of like imagination and childhood fantasy, but I don't know, it was a big stretch. Like, it didn't feel like these two worlds were kind of built together.
Not at all. No. I think there's more and more as we've been doing this podcast, I think there's less and less to talk about when it comes to story in a lot of ways. Like, I can surmise different things and come up with like, they should have done it earlier. Like, and they should have moved this here. But, I think you can even make it work in this sense, but it does feel like sometimes you need something a little earlier that just like plays up what the rest of the movie is going to be, versus just like switching to another movie at another point. I don't know what the diagnosis is, or like how to cure this thing. But how I felt during the movie was like, it didn't feel like cohesive or anything, and did feel like two different movies, like pretty distinctly. I don't know. I guess in my mind, like you said, I remember the second movie. I agree. I remember the second movie. I did not remember the first one.
I guess for whatever reason, just had never remembered that part, maybe because it sucked. And I mean, that's the kids movie right there, is the fun part. Or it's the part we remember. And it's just like they put it in this other like, it could very easily have been played a genre, like a very dramatic
film.
Like Wizard of Oz.
Obviously Wizard of Oz in a lot of ways is like a perfect format.
The pinnacle
exactly.
Of it,
and you can see Wizard of Oz. I thank you for bringing that up because it does feel like that's really the way this movie should have gone if they wanted to, that because that feels like that's what they tried to do at a certain point, was kind of go there, but they felt like they needed to take an hour and a half
to be in Kansas.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like to finally can you imagine taking that long in Wizard of Oz to get to the point? That's crazy.
Like giving him this whole backstory of
like she's farming. She has to go to the market to get things, and she has to sell. She's got all these other characters. Yeah.
Introduces each character as real people first.
Yeah. And you have whole storylines and plot lines that go through, and characters that you'll never see again as well. Like we never see like the junkyard ever again.
Right.
At a certain point.
Yeah,
that's just like
no.
It has no connection, and like someone was supposed to come and buy the car too. Remember that?
Right.
That
they
just
had like
is gone.
taken it or something. Yeah,
it's just gone. Like
they move in and out of things very quickly. They never come back.
They don't. They really didn't care, and I think maybe that's also this was a book.
Yeah.
And these feel like qualities of a book, not a movie.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Like what we're talking about.
What we're talking about. All of these things we could say, and it works as a book.
Yeah.
Like you can have another book in a book. Like I don't see that as being that big of a problem.
Sure, yeah.
Like because you can, I don't know, there's just a lot more you could do with it.
Yeah.
And I think this film also needed more to make other things make sense.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's also the thing. Is like it's a little too... letting the book drive the movie.
Pun intended.
Oh shit.
Sorry.
No, that was good.
Well, Roald Dahl, who wrote the book, wrote the screenplay. So maybe his involvement... Yeah,
Roald Dahl wrote the screenplay.
Just kidding. Redacted.
Yeah, but I was going to say Albert Brooks.
Ian Fleming.
Yes. Albert Broccoli, who is a very infamous producer who produced all of the James Bond films. And it was just like an Ian Fleming producer. This is the only thing, or just about the only thing that he did that was not 007 related.
Yeah.
It looks like he's got a number of different things.
Oscar
but
Wilde
this
movie.
was like a big thing for Albert R. Broccoli.
Sure.
To kind of go in a different direction. But Roald Dahl he's a very famous author.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously did.
So maybe there's something to that too, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
Like trying to preserve the novelization of it.
Yeah. You get, and that's, I had mentioned to you just a little bit earlier. I watched a little bit of the Moby Dick movie.
Right.
And that felt very similar. The 1950s Moby Dick movie by John Huston.
Yeah.
And there's it feels almost too faithful to the book in some ways. And that screenplay is also written by an author.
Right.
I think actually even two authors, Ray Bradbury, for those of you that are curious. And it's, I guess maybe that's another thing here is talking about like book adaptations.
Yeah. This makes me think of that Altman thing of like filmmakers at a certain point, and I think he's referring to like the 50s and 60s when he says this, like filmmakers hadn't understood like the medium of cinema yet, and that they were too reliant on like theater and novels as like the form to follow, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that like when you look at film now, or I don't know, maybe that's the end statement there. But I think when you look at novelizations, that's kind of like the difference is like we've kind of learned to stray away from that practice of like adapting straight from the book and just allowing it to become the movie. Yeah. So as its own thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, maybe it's been done now a number of times and done to good effect in a lot of ways that you're starting to figure out, okay, this is what you need to pull. These are the things that make sense.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Because cinema is image-based. It's about creating images and creating like visual feeling. And so you can't necessarily... Like you can film a play, you can film the event by event happenings of a book like on screen. Like you
You definitely,
you have the ability to do that.
It's an interesting exercise too. There's nothing to say not to do that either.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's been, you could maybe make a list of good movies that I've done that, but that doesn't necessarily create the best movie 100% of the time when you're critiquing an adaptation,
Yeah. It just depends what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for something that fits into like the cinematic mold.
Right.
And that's kind of, I guess, where we get in with this podcast is almost like answering like what is a movie by watching so many and talking about them.
Sure, yeah.
Is like it doesn't feel like the best way to reach that cinematic mold is by doing a 1-to-1 adaptation. Now, maybe I'm wrong. And I'd love to be like, that sounds interesting. Just like when we watched The Red Shoes.
Yeah.
And that's a ballet in a cinematic language.
Right.
Like there's really interesting things to do and adapting things. And that feels even more 1-to-1 in a lot of ways because it was very like, it's shot
right there.
Yeah, exactly. It was like very clearly a ballet, very unlike what you'd see on screen.
Right.
But done cinematically.
Yeah.
So we get a movie that is very like static shots, it feels like. And maybe
it's uninspired.
Yeah, that's just how it feels. It's just kind of it's kind of lacking and it makes you wonder like
could you remake this?
Don't you dare. It's just I think there's something interesting about I think like critiquing and talking about like children's movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like
is there a point?
Sometimes you gotta wonder like is there like at what point now I think there is a point because you do because I think this exercise is good to better understand it. There's no reason why a children's movie can't be like some of these other things.
Right. Right.
Yeah, there's no reason not to, but it is always interesting. I think that in my mind, I'm just kind of conditioned to be like, Ryan, why are you saying this about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Like, come on.
But even in the comparison of this to Mary Poppins is enough to support the argument that this conversation should exist.
They went for the king.
Yeah. Like, there is a good kids movie.
True.
Just that idea alone should allow you to say this could be better. This could be, XYZ.
Yeah.
Or, we can critique it for being what it's not and what it is because like, I don't know, the movie is a miracle sort of concept back. Like you should take the onus of making a good movie.
Yeah.
You should just the more I think about this film, the more I think that it's probably just like an industrialized type film where it's like a paycheck's coming in, producer's gonna pay for it. Like it's just riding on the backs of the names involved in this film. The Dick Van Dyke, the Albert Broccoli, Roald Dahl. You have all these names that will sell and will get butts in the seat. Like it feels like that's what this movie kind of is.
Yeah.
And they didn't take the responsibility to like go in there and raise the bar to that level of like what it could have been, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I just feel like that conversation is worth it.
I agree. I think that's good, and it makes me.
Yeah.
I had just recently watched Hearts of Darkness, and when we were recording this, which some time has passed, but Megalopolis just came out.
It's on the horizon, yeah.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola is on the mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And that is like hearing him talk about movies in Hearts of Darkness, the documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now.
That makes you want to run over a mountain.
Yeah. I mean, he is uncompromising when it comes to the importance of it and insulting to others that don't take it seriously. Yeah. And that I can profoundly respect.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that there's something about respecting, and I think we're living in an age where AI is now making us pick a side as well.
Sure.
It's insane that some people like are explicitly pro AI when it comes to art, especially cinematic art.
Yeah.
And makes you just really question so many things. But we're just living in an interesting time, I guess. But to bring it back, so thinking about like the importance of art and doing something that's worth it. Yeah. Obviously, they didn't take the Francis Ford Coppola mantra.
No, they didn't. I mean, in a way, it does feel like an AI movie to me. Like,
It kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I have this kind of proposed idea of like an AI movie to me, just like something kind of mishmashed ideas slapped together that don't feel like cohesive. And then also with the new age of technology, like the way computer generated images create like soulless soulless pictures to me. Yeah. So yeah, combining those two sorts of things.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Two bad things make an even better thing.
Yeah.
We love that.
Because you bring up the point of AI and like respect and art. Like I think these are all great conversations, you know? Like I follow this DP and Oren, I forgot his last name.
Yeah.
He worked on The Creator.
Oh, cool.
He reposted this kind of meme thing of like King from SpongeBob, King Neptune creating 100 Krabby Patties with magic, but they all taste bad. And then SpongeBob making one Krabby Patty in the same amount of time, but it's the best Krabby Patty of ever. And that kind of being a metaphor for like AI in art, you know? And also in Pacific Rim, I think I heard the word respect like 4 or 5 times throughout the whole movie. And I think that's such a big like part or big theme of that film is like just having respect for memory and like these traditions and like art and like the profession, you know, like these things are etched in stone, you know. To me it just feels like we should honor that and not try to break it or disrupt it, you know. It just,
I think Guillermo del Toro is a guy. I mean, he's so outspokenly against AI, and he's someone that really cares and has reverence for art. And that's another thing, like, just so we need more of that.
Yeah, I love Guillermo and the way he speaks about
he
film
does it
and
completely
life.
Uncompromising. Yeah, and it is actually a really wonderful.
It's so refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. To hear someone just like, and to be successful and to make it to that point. And to be able to still feel that way. And you know, there really aren't that many directors that really get to make like. We know what a Guillermo del Toro movie is.
Right.
So it's really cool to have that.
At that level, yeah.
And I bet folks did not think we would be start talking about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and get to this point. And that's the magic of wind, reel, and print.
Yeah. We'll find it.
We found it.
Whatever the nook is.
When we were even like 10 minutes in, I'm like, this will be the shortest episode we've ever done.
I was like, I don't even want to do this.
There's nothing more to say about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in some ways. Like,
absolutely.
I'll add one more thought on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I just remember being so scared of the child snatcher or whatever. So when he came on screen, I freaked a little bit. My heart rate increased. And that's about it.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much room for this film to be like a kind of a grim sort of like fairy tale, you know, like
it felt like it could have gone in the Shrek direction almost. Like it could have
totally.
like been like a fairy tale, like, but I guess because it feels like Ian Fleming also just takes himself too seriously in a way. Maybe that's what it is.
Sure, yeah.
Like there is just some like,
I'm
just
kind of
like
with his work.
Yeah, and I haven't read it, but I'm thinking of like this is the guy who did
James Bond
and this. It's kind of just it's weird, and it almost feels like being like, oh, I could make a children's book. I could write this sort of thing.
Nope.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it does make me want to like try to adapt it, right? Like, as an exercise, because I feel like there's a lot of good things here that you could work off of. They're just not applying it right.
Do you think if you remade it, you'd make it a musical?
No.
Why
I don't
not?
think I would. Why not?
Yeah.
For one, personally, I don't live in that world. I don't look at movies in that way, I guess. So I wouldn't try to pretend to try to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe if I spent the time, but I don't know. Or if I worked with the right people, I guess.
Are there musical movies you like?
Are there musical movies I like? Probably not off like the top of my head. I would say. I
didn't know if maybe there was something about musicals that maybe you had any thought about
got into.
with your
Oh, with like the meta stuff.
Yeah, in thinking about film and stuff, or thinking about format and stuff like that. Is there something maybe even about, because it also feels meta, if I can speak your language a little bit, to be like we're breaking out of the story, and we're doing something that is so not realistic in any way.
Sure,
and,
yeah.
and in some ways it does just like comment on the form itself.
Sure, yeah.
By doing that, being able to pull away. And
yeah.
I myself, like, I think I'd love to make a musical.
Sure.
Because it just seems like a really great opportunity to break something in a way. And I think that's why I really like the Muppets. Like, there's something about just being able to take the form and then break it.
Sure.
And I think musicals have that potential. I personally don't like a lot of musicals. Like, that's just not my thing. But I like the form a lot.
I like watching musicals on the stage.
Yeah.
Like, most of the musicals I watch are in that format.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, yeah, I guess I just have to get more familiar with it. I don't know, I guess we did watch some musicals. We watched Chicago, and we watched...
And we both liked it.
I did like it.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, I guess, yeah, even Zoot Suits was a musical. That one was interesting. I thought that had maybe I would. Yeah, okay.
It's interesting when you think about it a little more in that way. I needed to lead you to it.
I'm drinking the water.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was watching your faces. I was saying, and I'm like, I think we're talking in different languages.
Yeah. I'm thinking of this kind of musical, and I'm like, I don't think I would ever attempt that.
Right. This is like, I agree with you. Like, this is like, it's so boring.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do anything for me.
Right. Like, if I were to adapt this into a thing, maybe I would have to think about this.
I think you could do it really well as a musical.
Yeah.
Like, I think you could really adapt a much better modern musical take to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think, here's another thing, do you think you'd make it modern times? And it's like a modern car, like Transformers?
Oh, like change the setting?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, I have to think about this a lot.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because I'm like, because you could.
It's interesting.
Could you make it like, like Red Shoes, like set it on a stage and let the magic like blow up off the stage?
Ooh,
sort of a thing.
I like that a lot.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
like,
really cool.
And then there's like this opportunity to combine history with contemporary times. Like the audience is like today people watching the show that becomes like 1909 in England, and then and then you kind of can combine these two things. Yeah,
I like it.
Okay, yeah,
there you go. There you go. Copyright, trademark.
Yeah. Who do we have to talk to?
We have to talk. We're gonna have to delete this because I didn't say good things about Ian Fleming, and if we're looking to get the rights to this, no, that's all redacted. Ian Fleming, really great. This is gonna be the first wind reel and print picture.
One of the best
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang remakes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down. That sounds fun.
I mean, yeah.
Let's write a play.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be an interesting, just even recording sessions of the podcast that are just brainstorming sessions.
Yeah.
Like for a movie that doesn't exist.
That's very interesting
to kind of take some of the knowledge that we've taken through all of these. Because I think it feels like, folks, if you start watching a lot of movies, it feels like you grow another organ.
Brain. Yeah.
Like it feels like there's something inside that just like has like this like movie thing going on.
Totally.
And I hear stories and things. I'm like, oh, this is how you do this.
Yeah.
Kind of hit the matrix, but it's interesting.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's like tools and stuff.
Yeah.
You just looking at story and the world too. Yeah.
Wow, I did not think we were going to make it to this point talking about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, this is a good.
There's no more to say, you guys. There's no more.
Yeah, I hope not.
And that's it, folks.
Check it out.
See you next time
on Wind Reel and Print.
That's
that's a wrap.
There we go. Bye-bye. Wind Reel and Print is a podcast by Salad Brain Productions. You can find us online on Instagram at Wind Reel and Print Pod. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts. And please, if you like the show, leave a rating and review. We'll see you next time.